Everyone loves a good car collection, but some collectors take it to the next level. Whether it's hypercars, classic cars, or niche vintage race cars, there's somebody out there who spent generational wealth building a collection most people can't even dream of. And today, we will be covering some of the coolest car collections in the world. So, let's go. Jimmy John's makes some of the best sandwiches in the world, but their founder, Jimmy John, also has one of the best car collections in the world. This is what's in Jimmy John's garage, starting with Ferrari, and he's got a lot of them. With an F40, a Monza SP1, one of my personal favorites, the 599 GTO, an FXX, 458 Speciale, Scuderia Spider 16M, and then two of each of the following because one's just not enough. Two A12 comps, two F50s, two F12 TDFs, and two LaFerraris. Quite possibly one of the best modern Ferrari collections in history, but it doesn't stop there, as he has a Roof CTR Anniversary, a Roof R Spider, a Gen 1 Ford GT Heritage Edition, a 997 GT3 RS 4.0, a Carrera GT, 918 Spider, McLaren Senna, and to complete the Holy Trinity in his collection, he has a McLaren P1. And he's also previously owned some ridiculous cars, like a 911R, a GT2 RS Club Sport, another 918 Spider, as well as another Ferrari Enzo, a Pagani Huayra, and possibly the wildest car, the Pagani Huayra R. What's better, his sandwiches or car collection? Everyone has a favorite car color, but this guy takes it to the next level with a massive collection of 50 supercars, with nearly all of them being yellow. Starting with Porsche, he has a 911 Speedster, a 911 ST, 911 Sport Classic, Carrera GT, 911R, and a 918 Spider. Moving on to Pagani with a 2025 Utopia, a Huayra Roadster BC, and another Huayra Roadster BC. Then a Zonda F, which is clearly not yellow. Next up, his McLarens with a Speedtail, a Sabre, a Senna, as well as a Senna GTR, and of course, a P1. Next up, his Lambos with a Huracan Storado, a 1 of 100 Aventador 50th Anniversario Coupe, and the exact same car as a Roadster. But he might just have the best yellow Ferrari collection in the world, with a Daytona SP3, a Scuderia Spider 16M, a 488 Pista, an F512M, A12 Competizione, 348 Challenge, 275 GTB Series 2, 550 Barchetta by Pininfarina, 458 Speciale, F50, Monza SP1 and Monza SP2, Enzo, F12 TDF, F60 America, Dyno 246 GTS, and completing the Holy Trinity in his collection, a LaFerrari, as well as a LaFerrari Aperta. But he also has some Ferraris that aren't yellow, with a 365 GTS, a Pininfarina 212 Inter, a 250 GTL Berlinetta, a 250 GT LWB Berlinetta, one of my personal favorites, the 288 GTO, an F40, a 488 Spider 70th Anniversary Edition, as well as a 70th Anniversary F12 Berlinetta, Super America Aperta, and to wrap up his collection, a couple of new Aston Martins, also in yellow, with a Valor, as well as a V12 Vantage Roadster. Is this the world's best paint match collection? Japan is famous for their car culture, but this guy might just have the most insane car collection in the entire country, with some of the most exclusive cars in the world. Starting with Porsche, he has a 918 Spider, a 1 of 25 Gambala Mirage GT based off the Carrera GT. Moving on to Pagani, he has a Huayra and a Zonda F. Next, his McLarens with a 675 LT Carbon Series, a 765 LT, a Speedtail, a P1, a P1 LM, and a 1 of 4 road legal P1 GT by Lazante, which was based off the 1 of 3 F1 GT, a car which he also owns. He also has a Lexus LFA and a super clean Lamborghini Countach. Now on to Koenigsegg with a CCX, an Agera RS, a Regera, and a Jesko. Next, his Ferrari collection with an A12 Competizione, a Daytona SP3, an FXX, and an FXXK. But possibly the wildest car in his entire collection, the Ferrari 499P Modificata, which is a $5.4 million track-only hypercar based off the Le Mans winning Ferrari hypercar. And we aren't done yet. He also has a few Bugattis with a Chiron, a Veyron Grand Sport Vitesse, and a Chiron Super Sport. But he also previously owned not one, but two McLaren F1s, an F1 LM, another F1 LM, and a road legal converted F1 GTR. Pretty nuts. What would you rate his collection? This collection in Switzerland just went for sale, but it might just be the wildest collection to ever go to auction. Called the Tailored for Speed collection, they feature some of the world's most exclusive cars, like this trio of track-only Ferraris with the FXX, the FXXK, and the 599XX. In total, they are selling 42 cars from their collections, and these are the craziest. Starting with more Ferraris, we have the 488 Pista Piloti, a 599 GTO, a 458 Speciale Aperta, an A12 Competizione, an A12 Competizione Aperta, as well as an F12 TDF, a Super America Aperta, a Monza SP1, a Daytona SP3, a LaFerrari, and a LaFerrari Aperta, and of course a Ferrari F40. But it doesn't stop at Ferraris, as they also have a Lamborghini Sion, a Pagani Utopia, a Pagani Huayra Roadster BC, a Bugatti Chiron Supersport, and then some more insane track-only cars with the Mercedes-AMG GT2 Pro, the Mercedes-AMG GT Track Series, not to be confused with the Black Series, a 488 GT3 Evo, a 488 GTE Evo, and the utterly insane Pagani Huayra R. But lastly, and expected to sell for almost $6 million, making it the most expensive in the collection, is the Ferrari 333 SP. And that's only half the collection for sale. Which car is your favorite? Everyone loves iconic race liveries, but not more than this guy. This is Eckhard Schimpf, driver and founder of the Jagermeister racing team, with an insane collection of some of the most iconic cars that ever sported a Jagermeister livery. Starting with Porsche, he has the first ever Jagermeister racing car, which he actually drove, the 914-6, as well as a Carrera 3.0 RSR, a 934, a 956, a 962, and more recently a 997 GT3 Cup. Unfortunately, I do believe he sold my personal favorite, the 935. But he also has a BMW 320i Turbo. I think car design peaked here, as well as a 3.0 CSL, an M3 Evo, Formula 2 cars, and Formula 1 cars like the March Cosworth Formula 1. And in total, he has about 25 cars that all sported the Jagermeister livery in competition. But possibly cooler than the collection is the story behind the team itself. In 1972, Eckhard asked his cousin, the CEO of Jagermeister, for 500 marks, which was like $250, to race in the Monte Carlo Rally, and in return, he'd sport a Jagermeister livery. His cousin gave him 1,000 marks instead. He raced with a green Jagermeister livery. Jagermeister then wanted to be more eye-catching, so they made it orange, and the rest is history. This guy might have the coolest Porsche collection in the world, but half of them aren't even street legal. This is Rusty French, a legendary Australian driver who won the 1983 Australian GT Championship in a Porsche 935, which he still owns to this day. And sporting the same livery to match his championship car, he also has a 1 of 77 991 935, which he spec'd in fully exposed carbon fiber. He also has yet another 935, as well as a 911 GT2 RS, the more extreme 911 GT2 RS Club Sport, and the even more insane 1 of 77 911 GT3R Rennsport. And over the years, he's owned a ton of other legendary Porsches, with the 993 Carrera RS, one of my personal favorites, the 993 GT2, another 935, and allegedly about 40 other Porsches in his collection with normal models like the GT3 RS and Turbo S. But his collection isn't just Porsches. He's also owned some of the most exclusive Ferraris in the world, with the 275 GTB4, the 365 GTB4, a 550 Barchetta Pininfarina, and the insanely rare 1 of 7 Ferrari F40 GTE, which looks absolutely insane. What would you rate this collection? One of the biggest car collections in the world is going for sale, but these are no ordinary cars. They come from the Claremont collection located in Chicago, founded by Larry Claremont, who built a museum just to showcase his car collection, which is one of the most baller things I've ever heard. Although sadly, he passed away in July. So every single one of his 300 plus cars are getting auctioned off, with some of the most notable being the Golden Sahara 2, which was a legendary one-off concept car, a 1 of 8 1926 Rickenbacker 8 Super Sport, which is believed to be the only intact example in the world. 14 classic Rolls Royces, mod top 1969 Plymouth Barracuda, a Duesenberg Model J, a 1936 Mercedes-Benz 540k cab, and a ridiculous amount of one-off concept cars, like this 1960 Ford Fairlane Spaceliner, this Lincoln Continental with a Aston Martin V12 under the hood, the 1982 Dodge Turbocharger, which was actually an Indy pace car, as well as a ton of custom one-off classic muscle cars, like this 1950 Studebaker Ice Princess, this 1955 Ford Beatnik Bubble Top, and next to it a Lincoln Continental Mark II Bubble Top, these two custom Ford Thunderbirds, a custom 1952 Chevy Coupe, and about 280 other extremely rare collector cars. But every single car is being auctioned off with no reserve price, so maybe you can get your hands on one. Ralph Lauren is a fashion legend, but his car collection is one of the best and most exclusive collections in the entire world. These are the craziest cars in his collection, starting strong with the rough CTR3, a 997 GT3 RS, a 997.1 GT3 RS, Carrera GT 959, and not one, but two 918 Spyders. On to Mercedes with one of the coolest looking cars ever, the 710 SSK. Not one, not two, but three Mercedes 300 SLs, with one of them being an alloy gullwing. Then a McLaren F1, as well as an F1 LM, a P1, and yet another P1. The only Lambo currently in his collection, a Reventon. Now for one of the best private Ferrari collections in the world, he has an F40, a 250 Testarossa, 250 LM, 250 GT SWB California Spider, 250 GT SWB Berlinetta Competizione, the most expensive car in the world, a 250 GTO, a 275 GTB/4 Nart Spider, Scuderia Spider 16M, and completing the Holy Trinity in his collection with a LaFerrari. He also has a few Bugattis with a Type 57S, Type 57 Atlantic Coupe, Type 59, Veyron, as well as a Veyron Supersport, and to wrap it up, the ultimate classy car, the Aston Martin DB5. What would you rate his collection? This is the world's most insane McLaren collection, but it's so rare that every single car is a one of one. Owned by the late Mansour Ojjeh, who McLaren Racing CEO Zak Brown said was, quote, a founding father of McLaren. Mansour funded McLaren Racing in the early days, leading to 7 constructors and 10 drivers championships. He also played a massive role in the development of the legendary McLaren F1, of which he owns the last chassis ever produced. In fact, every single McLaren that he owns is the final chassis of that model. But now onto the cars in his collection. Every car besides this one-off Senna-inspired Senna features the same Mansour orange that no other customer can spec on their car, making every car a one of one. In the collection, he has a P1, P1 GTR, F1, Sabre, Speedtail, Senna, Senna LM, Senna GTR, Elva, 675 LT, 675 LT Carbon Series, 688 MSO HS, 765 LT and 765 LT Spider, 600 LT and 600 LT Spider, 620R, 650S Can-Am Spider, 650S Le Mans, and a 720S Le Mans. But this entire collection could be yours, as it's for sale by Tom Hartley Jr. in the UK, and if sold all together as a complete collection, it's expected to pull almost $100 million. The Sultan of Brunei has over 7,000 cars worth about $7.2 billion. These are the 7 most expensive cars in his collection. Up first, the Bentley Dominator 4x4. Bentley only made these for the Sultan and his family, and they cost about $4.6 million a piece, which he bought 6 of. Next, the Ferrari F40 LM costing about $5.5 million. Ferrari only made 19 of these, with his being the only right-hand drive example. At number 5, his Rolls-Royce Silver Spur Limo, which is worth about $14 million. The car itself isn't that expensive, but when you cover the entire thing in 24 karat gold, it runs up the price. Next, one of the most legendary cars of all time, the McLaren F1, which costs anywhere from $18 to $22 million. And he has 3 of them. Up next, the McLaren F1 GTR, which cost about $20 million, with this being one of just 28 examples in the entire world. Another McLaren in the 2 spot with the F1 LM costing about $22 million. Only 5 of these were ever built, and he has 3 of them. At number 1, big surprise here, it's another F1. This one being the F1 GT, with just 3 units ever produced and costing about $25 million. For this one, he does only have 1 of them, but that's how. Mr. Bean, aka Rowan Atkinson, is famous for crashing his McLaren F1 twice. But what other cars has he owned over the years? These are some of the coolest. First, a BMW 328 Roadster, a Jaguar Mark 7, this beautiful Ford Falcon Spirit, all of which he actually drove and raced over the years, gaining multiple victories, but there were a few crashes along the way. Then his Aston Martin V8 Vantage, which was featured in his James Bond parody film Johnny English Strikes Again. Then another Aston with the V8 Zagato, which was crashed during a track day in 2001. He also had 2 Lancia Delta HF Integrales, a super clean Land Rover Defender 110 Heritage, a Honda NSX, a Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, this one of 22 Bentley Mulsanne Birkin Edition. And no, it's not named after the bag that your girlfriend wants. Then this Rolls-Royce Phantom Drophead, which was fitted with a prototype V16 from Rolls-Royce at Atkinson's request. However, when it comes to his F1, Despite being totaled twice, he sold it in 2015 for over $12 million. What's your favorite celebrity car collection? Pagani makes some of the best cars in the world, but the founder, Horatio Pagani himself, has a massive car collection worth over $100 million. Obviously, he has the best Pagani collection in the world, personally owning 18 of them. Within his collection, he owns 11 Zondas, with the most notable few being a 1 of 15 track-only Zonda R, a 1 of 5 Zonda Roadster Cinque, a 1 of 3 track-only Zonda Revo Barchetta, and my personal favorite, a 1 of 3 Zonda HP Barchetta. But we're just getting started. He also personally owns 5 Pagani Huayra variants, one being a base Huayra, as well as a Huayra BC, one of the most insane sounding cars of all time, the track-only Huayra R, a 1 of 5 Huayra Codalunga, and a Huayra Roadster HP, which from my research, I could only find 2 that were ever produced. Outside of the standard models, he also has a 1 of 5 Pagani Imola. Moving on to his other cars, he has 2 Ferraris, the first being a 275 GTB/4 worth around $3.5 million. The second being one of my favorite cars of all time, the Ferrari F12 TDF, tailor-made just for Pagani himself. To add to the motorsport drama in his garage, he has a Lamborghini Countach 25th Anniversary Edition, as well as a 67 Heritage Ford GT. But his Porsche collection is my favorite part, with a 911R, a 918 Spider, a bespoke 1 of 77 track-only 935, a Carrera GT, as well as the even crazier 1 of 5 Carrera GTZ from Zagato. He clearly has incredible taste in cars, but what's your favorite car in his collection? Mate Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti and Rimac, builds some of the world's fastest cars. But what does he have in his garage? This is Mate Rimac's personal car collection. Obviously, he's going to own some of his own cars with one of the fastest EVs in the world, the Rimac Nevera, which he didn't take delivery of until all customer deliveries had finished, putting his clients first. Pretty cool. And another one of the fastest cars in the world, the Bugatti Chiron Sport, in this super clean blue on black spec. But when it comes to his other cars, he's got pretty good taste. Owning a legendary Porsche Carrera GT, his example being black paint on a brown interior, an ultra-rare Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren, an E86 Z4 M Coupe, and a 1 of 600 E30 M3 Evo 3. This might just be my favorite. It's pretty sick. He was also rumored to have previously owned a Aston Martin Valkyrie, as well as a Ferrari 812 Superfast. But Mate is famously known for his daily drivers, in which he has a BMW F90 M5, an R32 Volkswagen Golf, and a BMW E9 M5. What would you rate his car collection? Christian von Koenigsegg makes some of the world's craziest cars, but his personal collection isn't exactly what you'd expect. This is what the founder of Koenigsegg has in his garage. First up, his Mazda Miata, which he bought all the way back in the 90s, although he has sold his Miata and bought it back a few times over the years. He claims that if he had 1 tank of gas left and had to choose 1 car to drive, he would choose the Miata. Next, a family car from Sweden, the Volvo XC90, another daily with the Tesla Model 3. But finally, getting into sportier cars with the Lotus Esprit V8, which was one of his dream cars growing up, and he said he just couldn't pass on the opportunity when one of the last ones ever made came for sale. He also regularly drives his Toyota GR Yaris to work, which might just be the perfect daily for Swedish winters. His wife Haldora, the COO of Koenigsegg, drives around in a Porsche 911 Targa 4 GTS, where I'm sure he spent some time behind the wheel. He's also rumored to own a Ferrari 575 Maranello, but the wildest non-Koenigsegg car that he owns is a 1 of 19 Zagato AGTZ Twin Tail, a tribute to the Alpine A220 1969 Le Mans car. But finally, on to cars from his own company. He owns a 1 of 14 Koenigsegg CCR, and more recently a CC850, the modern interpretation of the CC8S and famous for being able to drive in both manual and automatic. He also plans to get himself a Gemera and has his dream car collection as being 2 Koenigsegg's in the garage with the Gemera outside as a family car. What's your favorite car in his collection? Thanks for sticking around as we covered some of the coolest car collections in the world. Drop a comment on which collection was your favorite, or if you have a collection you'd like me to review or check out. And until then, see you in the next one. Subscribe.